right, and so welcome everybody officially to this session of the Resilient Penn series as part of Penn Public Library's adult programming schedule. We are here with a very special guest today. We've got Marisa Lansing, and she has been coordinating the Finger Lakes Climate Fund at Sustainable Tompkins since 2019, soon after graduating from Ithaca College with a BA in Environmental Studies. She's continued her commitment to climate justice and community building through her work with Sustainable Tompkins, coordinating Ithaca Green New Deal outreach to underrepresented communities and growing vegetables with Buried Treasures Organic Farm. She is also the co-founder of the youth-led climate justice organization Sunrise Ithaca, which fought to get the Green New Deal resolution passed in the city of Ithaca successfully. The Finger Lakes Climate Fund is the oldest local carbon offsetting fund in the country. They distribute grants to local lower income community members to install energy efficiency equipment like air source heat pumps and lead the transition off of harmful fossil fuels. The FLCF works to promote these clean energy projects in the Finger Lakes area while strengthening our regional economy and assisting local families in need. The fund provides a way for individuals, businesses, and organizations to support our community while offsetting greenhouse gas emissions from their buildings or travel using the very awesome carbon calculator, which I've used a couple of times since discovering it. So without further ado, I will welcome Marisa and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Alex. I will share my screen now. Let's see. Here we go. Did it work?
It's coming. There it goes.
Okay. Put it into presenter view. Here we go. We're good?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Alex, for that wonderful introduction. It was really lovely to also hear a little bit about each of you before I go into this presentation today. I'll share about the program for about 15 minutes or so, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we can brainstorm any collaboration ideas and have a good discussion. So first, a bit about Sustainable Tompkins. We're a community-based nonprofit founded back in 2004 with the mission of convening, connecting, and catalyzing the sustainability movement. Back then, there was no real central body to support local action and provide the education that was really needed. So we became the backbone of this early movement. And so Gay Nicholson, our founder, who is right there on the left-hand side of the screen in action, she had a vision to assemble nonprofit organizations, engage citizens, and local lawmakers together into a powerful coalition that could approach this monstrous problem of climate change and social injustice altogether. So over the years, this has manifested through a huge variety of projects. I'll tell you about a few, and then we'll go into all about the Climate Fund. We've covered many sustainability topics over the past 17 years, but we've always been deeply involved in helping to identify and adopt solutions to our climate crisis. So one of my favorite current programs right now is the Neighborhood Mini Grants, which might be relevant to you all soon. This was started back in 2008. We've helped seed dozens of small, really cool projects locally that are dreamed up by local community members. And as a result, we've seen community gardens popping up, farmers markets appearing, and programs that specifically help marginalized community members. So this graphic is a little out of date, but more than $80,000 and over 200 projects have been used to keep good ideas in motion and give power back to the people. So we're going to be launching our Sustainable Finger Lakes official name change on Earth Day this year. Sarah, who's here with us today, will be helping do that. And as we become even more regional in our work, we plan to start offering mini grants across the Finger Lakes and holding these regional conversations. And so this is our Sustainable Finger Lakes map, which you can check out yourself at sustainablefingerlakes.org. You can go in there and find the best vetted sustainable locations for anything. It could be a winery, a store, a farm, you name it. And I'll have to make sure that the library is on there. So Sarah, write that down. We also feature calls to action that highlight specific campaigns you can support and actions you can take locally. It sounded like you all are excited to take more action here. And we also make posts celebrating wins in the movement and great news across the region. And so all of this is to keep threading together our initiatives across the Finger Lakes. So now to the main event, my favorite program, the Finger Lakes Climate Fund. So this is the program that we're discussing today. It was started back in 2010 when we were witnessing a real lack of transparency and accountability in the carbon markets that were developing at the time. We found that people really need transparent, locally based, trustworthy carbon offset options to account for the emissions that they can't yet reduce. Ours takes a systems approach by addressing two of the main challenges facing humanity today: climate disruption and income inequality. And we do this through energy efficiency and emission reduction projects in local lower income households. So these community generated offsets mitigate and help take account for some of the emissions from fossil fuels that can go directly into funding these projects. So I'll tell you a bit about the Climate Fund and how it works. So despite our best efforts, carbon emissions happen all of the time. And we know that these emissions are heating up the Earth's climate and causing billions in damage every year. So through the Climate Fund, community members like yourself, institutions and businesses are given the opportunity to offset or cancel out greenhouse gas emissions from their lifestyles. So we've seen a lot of different offsetting programs over the years, and especially ones that focus on tree planting in faraway places, but they don't offer the same connection to local place and community that a local climate fund might. So we knew that our initiative would be connected to local action and local people, which community members can connect with and feel like they're making a real impact. And at the same time, we knew that building efficiency measures are absolutely critical in this transition off of fossil fuels. But too often we found that it's been only the wealthy who are living in high efficiency homes that are able to really afford to tap into the benefits of renewable energy. And it's those in socioeconomically disadvantaged communities that are stuck with the negative impacts of fossil fuels and old leaky homes, which are classic of upstate New York. So all of the carbon offset donations made through us go out in grants to provide the gap funding necessary to equip lower income residents, including tenants, of the Finger Lakes region with carbon-free heating and cooling solutions for their homes. So with these home energy upgrades, these households can then move towards a zero emission home with more affordable bills, increased home comfort, and freeing up their household budget to cover other costs important to their well-being. So while you as an offsetter are reducing where you can, their emissions are going down at the same rate in their home. So this tackles that joint issue of inequality and climate at the same time. And as a result, we have low-income homes that are climate smart and climate ready. So the way that individuals, businesses, and organizations make carbon offsets is through our carbon calculator on our website. This is fingerlakesclimatefund.org. We actually just built a new website, which you can see a screenshot of here. We're still sorting out some of the glitches, so don't judge us yet. But on the site, you can easily calculate round trip flights, vacations, or road trips, and then you make your contribution based on the equated dollar amount that pops out. And on the site, you'll find monthly and yearly averages of home energy use or car travel. So if you want to use an estimate, you're totally invited to. But some people get very excited about pulling out their energy bills and the kilowatt hours and getting it exact. So since carbon offsetting is a foreign concept to many people, we've tried to keep it quick, easy, and affordable. We do that by keeping it at $25 per ton of CO2, but we know that the real cost of carbon is unfortunately only going up. So who gets these offset grants? Well, all of our awardees make less than 80% of the median income for their household size. And single parent families are actually the largest category of our awardees. We also have many senior citizens, young families, immigrant families, and first-time home buyers that benefit from our program. And just so you know, these offset grants are calculated based on the difference of emissions that were coming from their old fossil fuel energy system, which is often paired with poor insulation, to the new energy system, and adding that new insulation, the air sealing, and installing modern energy efficient technology, like an air source heat pump, for example, that runs on electricity. So that total grant is calculated by the installer, still equating that $25 per ton of CO2 over the lifespan of the system. And that carbon offset calculation amount is then taken off the bill that the awardee sees in the end. And this is all in addition to the state's incentives and other grants available for this work, which makes it extremely affordable. So we'll look at some stats. So far we funded 74 climate fund grants in 10 different counties, offsetting nearly 7,000 tons of CO2 with over $125,000 in awards to local families in need. And it's very cool to note that all of this money is coming from community source offsets. It's so incredible. And again, this money is coupled with state incentives and grants. And so the give is actually much greater than this number. And actually paired with our Heat Smart grants, where over the past 2 years, we are able to give out an additional $2,000 per heat pump system and $300 per heat pump water heater, we've given out nearly $250,000 in these awesome grants. So you might be wondering too, who actually offsets their carbon? Do people really do this thing? Well, the answer is yes. Over the years, we've been able to build up a community of people across the Finger Lakes who take responsibility for their carbon emissions as part of their climate activism and contributing directly to their community. So people will offset their vacations, their honeymoons, visits to the grandkids, family reunions, conference travel. Colleges offset their campus and business travel or start carbon races. And many also offset emissions from their homes or from their businesses. And we love to celebrate and share, these fun vacation and road trip stories or team pictures on our social media, on our website, because ultimately it's a celebration of all of our contributions together. And we found that our program works because it's something tangible. We've learned that the sentiment of supporting neighbors in need has become one of the biggest drivers of contributing to the fund, even more so than helping reduce carbon emissions alone. And it's important to note that businesses and larger institutions are also taking responsibility for their missions, not just passionate climate individuals. And so this is how Finger Lakes Enterprises for Climate Action, or FLECA, was born, really giving them another opportunity to walk their talk while sharing sustainability knowledge and tips with each other. We've seen a lot of progress and engagement, but we're hoping to see this grow a lot this year, maybe with that bed and breakfast that you mentioned, Christine. And so for our members, we offer tiers of giving and added marketing value, celebrating the stories and contributions as much as we can. So we also encourage groups to join our carbon races, where after choosing a team name, you can get really fun with it. You get to contribute to your team's rank in the races by offsetting your carbon together and competing against other teams who are also racing to offset the most amount of emissions. And so it's really fun to see your group rise in the ranks as you offset more and more. Some might say it's addicting. And this is something that you might all consider is starting a resilient Penn Library carbon race team, for example. These races are also a really great way for teams to track offsets in their area, guaranteeing a climate fund award in your community. And we haven't done one yet in Yates County, so we better get to it. Now, finally, who gets these jobs? Well, the key role that the Climate Fund plays is providing the gap financing that often allows jobs to go forward or to expand, producing more work for local energy installers. So any installer who is NYSERDA certified can participate in our program and access grant money to reduce the cost for their low-income clients. And so here are a few of our partners. Only Groton. We also want to emphasize that since we started the Climate Fund, we have deliberately framed our grant awardees as climate heroes and not as charity cases. These are the folks who are leading the way by getting their homes fixed up and lowering their carbon footprint. So what we like to say at Sustainable Tompkins, that offsetting with us is a win-win-win situation. We have offsetters able to take responsibility for their emissions and give back, awardees that can finally afford clean energy in their homes, and local installers and green jobs that receive extra funding from us to get these jobs done, which stimulates the local economy. So before I wrap up, I'm going to introduce you to a few of our grant awardees. This is actually my favorite part of my job, getting to know these very cool people and sharing these stories. So First, here's an example of one family in Ithaca who was funded by our carbon offset grants. They're now fully electrified in their home and have very energy efficient AC in the summer, which they're very excited about. So at the beginning of the pandemic, they had a new baby on the way, and we're super grateful for the reliable and steady temperatures that they now could have control over in their home with an air source heat pump. Alan, on the right-hand side of your screen, is actually Claire's dad. He's the landlord and he owns the home. And something that many people don't know is that landlords can access our programs and the state incentives based on the low income status of their tenants. So they themselves don't actually have to income qualify. And just this month, like a week or two ago, we just won a grant from Neisha to start a pilot program in Ithaca, helping tenants work with their landlords to make this switch. And this is going to be huge in the transition off of fossil fuels because 75% of housing in Ithaca itself is rental. And really to get at that split incentive where tenants are paying, they're paying the ones paying for the energy bill, but the landlord is the one who's responsible for the energy system. So it makes it super hard to encourage landlords to make this essential investment, but we're up for the challenge. So here we have Neisha. This is a very cold interview, our 53rd grant awardee. Neisha is currently a single mom who's been a homeowner in Groton for about 10 years, probably 11 at this point since I recorded her story. She's been heating her home with propane, but the price swings for that fuel made her interested in getting a heat pump installed. She was ready for some steady, boring predictability and decided to install an air source heat pump. She received $2,000 towards her heat pump, plus another additional $1,000 from the Climate Fund for the 42 tons of CO2 prevented from the switch. And as a longtime sustainability activist in our community and a founding member of our neighborhood mini grants program, which I just introduced to you earlier today, we are really pleased to help her out. Next, we have the Bouma family. They're a young family living in the South Side in downtown Ithaca, and were actually neighbors of mine for this past year. And I always see them outside playing soccer together. Well, this year they ended up going with an air source heat pump and a heat pump water heater when this hot summer of 2020 had them suffering to the point of looking into air conditioning. They found out about heat pumps from a friend who had one and got enrolled in HeatSmart for a whole house assessment. They were so glad to get rid of their gas line and look forward to soon one day being able to install solar panels and then reach zero emissions in their home. They also are excited because they don't have to burn firewood through this winter and can keep their neighborhood's air a little cleaner this coming winter. So they received $2,300 from our LMI HeatSmart incentive, an additional $2,000 from those carbon offset Climate Fund grant awards for keeping 80 tons of CO2 out of the air. Here we have Paula and Dameon, a very cute family of 4, making 60% or less of the area median income. So this heat pump was installed through a new Habitat for Humanity build. So it wasn't a retrofit like those past 2 stories. And they actually got to play an extensive role in building the home alongside Habitat volunteers. And we've actually been able to partner with this Habitat for Humanity nearly 5 times and have another job ahead in the pipeline. So Dameon and Paula were so excited for Snug Planet, who's now Halco, to connect them with the Climate Fund to get clean heating and cooling in their homes, and they didn't have to hook up a new gas furnace. Last but not least, we have Robyn out in Enfield. So this was a really fun project. Robyn has been enthusiastically building herself a tiny home out in Enfield using a lot of recycled materials. I got to visit the home. It was so fantastic. I hope I get to have one day. And originally the plans called for a propane furnace, but Tom Mayo of Ethereal Energy, one of our partner installers, told her about heat pumps, and she gladly went that route once she learned she would qualify for extra funding and support. So good job to Tom. So she got the $2,000 LMI heat pump incentive and another $1,000 Climate Fund award for the CO2 prevented by not going with that propane. So to wrap it up, if you want to learn more about offsetting or heat pumps and all of the incentives, want to share with your friends about what you learned today, you can visit our channel on YouTube. We have a whole series of short videos to quickly educate you on any of these topics. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Definitely keep up with us. We're on Instagram and Facebook, Sustainable Tompkins, Sustainable Finger Lakes Climate Fund. We're there across the board. We're even on Twitter. But now I would be so excited to hear some of your thoughts, answer your questions, and have a little discussion. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. That was awesome. I don't know about everybody else, but hearing all of that leaves me with this like excited feeling about the possibility for everything your group makes possible. So I'm really excited. I have some questions, and actually you answered a couple of my questions while we were talking, but like for instance, I was going to ask about where renters fit in, and sure enough, you covered that, which is really good to hear. But I'll give our other guests an opportunity if they want to ask their questions first. Anybody out there have any question or comment first? And you can also drop it into the chat if your audio or whatever isn't working, or if you don't want to be on camera saying it, that's fine too. I'll watch the chat room. So what do we got out there, folks?
Well, I was interested to see that Habitat for Humanity partnered with them, and I just wonder what that process is like, because we just had they're just finishing up a house here in our community, and I wonder if that concept was ever examined before they went ahead with traditional heat sources. And here we have in Penn a municipal utility. Yeah. And often the incentives for switching over to solar or some of the other alternative sources isn't as great as it would if we were, going with a for-profit business. Do you have anything to offer about that?
Yeah, I know that other places, like for example, in Madison County, I don't know this, I forget the specifics of it, but they don't qualify, for example, for the NYSEG rebates on the air source heat pumps and the heat pump water heaters because they get a reduced utility bill or something like that because of the hydropower that they have access to, for example. So I don't know. I would love to introduce our program to the Habitat group up here, because I think that would be an incredible partnership to establish, especially if we can fundraise to get a climate fund award in your county. I think that'd be fantastic. And so the installer would calculate what the difference in CO2 emitted over the lifespan of whatever they're planning to install versus the emissions of the new heat pump technology or the water heater. And then that difference we'd be able to provide a grant. So that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
And conveniently enough, one of my colleagues at the library is very involved in the local Habitat for Humanity group. So maybe we can make an introduction happen, and that could, because I was thinking the same thing, Joanna. That was, they're just finishing up a house here right now, and I'm sure they're moving on to another project soon. So it might be a good time to start talking.
Yeah. Yeah, especially a furnace could last, 10, 15, 20 years, if not more. And so being able to prevent them from being installed in the first place and getting folks on energy efficient electric technology is great. Great.
The other thought that occurred to me with carbon offsets is that if you're contemplating a vacation or a business trip, and I think especially on the heels of the COVID pandemic, that people, if they got into a habit of not just looking at the actual cost of travel, but saying, oh no, but I have to pay X on top of that for my offsets. It's just enough to make you pause and think, is this really that valuable to me? I mean, especially now that we can do a lot of meetings by Zoom and so forth, as we're doing now, maybe businesses will think twice before they make all their employees hop on a plane to a meeting.
That's really smart. Yep. I mean, even through COVID, we've seen that happen. They're realizing that it's way more cost efficient in the first place. And I mean, air travel is one of the biggest emitters of emissions. So it would be great if we can reduce those any way we can. I mean, that's the biggest way that we're going to cut down emissions, is just to prevent them from even happening in the first place. But some trips have to happen. And so as we make the transition to find, more lower emissions fuels, options for air travel, it's going to be huge.
I have had the opportunity to use the Climate Fund carbon calculator twice now. And one was for our first big trip that we took, my partner and I, since everything hell broke loose. And we went to Maine, and we drove and we did all the coves and whatnot. It was hundreds and hundreds of miles. And I had just found out about what you offer. Before that, I was like, all right, I have no idea what this is going to cost, but I'm committed to offsetting. I think this is important. So like, okay, I'm prepared to take the hit. And then I plugged in our mileage, and it was like $25. And I was so amazed that I could offset that whole trip at such an affordable cost. And that's the kind of thing that, you can get. I don't want to say for sure, but I could probably convince the library to offset all, convention and conference travel pretty easily.
Great.
That wouldn't be a very big deal. And other businesses, other organizations in the community, I think, would be very open to that kind of thing, since it's not going to break the bank. And it has such a positive and easily almost tangible impact, since it's connecting right back to people in our regional community. So I highly recommend that everybody, if you've had a trip recently, or even if you had a trip 20 years ago, offset that trip, plug in the mileage and see what you can do. So I just thought that was a really cool thing to discover.
Yeah, I mean, are there any window decals that you can put saying this organization has offset their carbon footprint by X number? I mean, could be quite a catchy thing, right?
we actually we have those. We send them out to all of our FLECA members, all of the Finger Lakes Enterprises for Climate Action. So right now we have 14 members. So, I mean, we'd be excited to send one out to the library. That would be great.
I think I can put that into motion.
Yeah, and any other businesses you think that you can make an e-introduction to, or something like that, I think that would be fantastic.
And for all of us who sort of said at the beginning, which several of us did, we want to be more involved in making progress somehow. And a lot of times we feel like, well, gosh, what can we do? There's a lot of power and intelligence and community connections just in this room that could go to chambers of commerce, to business owners, to organizations, to administrators, and make the pitch for that. And when you start to add up and maybe hold one of these carbon races, get involved in the carbon race. Love that, by the way. Love every time things get gamified, and it really is a way. So that's awesome. And you can start to see at the end of a year, like something that you started today, you could say, how many tons of carbon were offset because of that. And that's a really tangible result that I think we could all feel good about.
Yes. And raising I think it's $2,000 or $2,500. $2,500 is our maximum carbon offset grant that we give per project. So once you reach that threshold in a county, that guarantees a neighbor in need being able to be supported by our grant funding. So it would be great to support whether it's a Habitat for Humanity build or a local community member that's being crushed by their energy bills, or a really leaky house. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yes, but I think it's easy to start a carbon race team. All you have to do is you go in, you make an offset, or you can even make it just like a test offset of like $1, and then the website will prompt you, do you want to add this to a carbon race team, start a new carbon race team? And so then that's where you would put in Penn Yan Library or Resilient Penn Yan. And then we have materials that you can use to invite other people to it, and that kind of thing.
So cool.
And we would be so excited to share. Alex, I really want this story, the main story. I'd love to share some photos and a little quote from you, so we can put that on our social media.
I'd be happy to.
encourage people, remind people to offset. That's the thing. It's like you have to like remember to do it. And that's the hardest part, is building it's almost like muscle memory.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of it. I wonder if there could be a niche for like a little trip planner that includes that on a budget line. Don't forget
really
your
good
climate
idea.
offset and just hand those out at farmers markets.
Do some airlines have an option as you're purchasing your ticket to offset your travel?
Yeah.
And I wonder, is it possible to get local organizations like this linked into something like that? I don't know.
That would be great. I mean, something we're actually working with this boat club out in Lake George, and they want to start their own. They want to make Lake George the greenest lake in the world, like in the country. And so they want to have, at least at some of their local stores, have people round up to offset the emissions from whatever that they're purchasing. But we have to figure out a way for that to be tracked, and what that overhead would look like to be able to keep track of that. So I think that's just one barrier that we'd have to overcome. But another thing that we're working with right now is at Ithaca College, for example. I just had a meeting this past week with the travel services office, because every time staff and faculty travel, they have to fill out an expense spreadsheet. And so we're like, okay, well, how do we get, making a local carbon offset for their trip on the spreadsheet? And all they have to do is, punch in, where they're going to, if it's a round trip, how many people are going, and punch in that number, and then the institution would cover it, or it would come out of pocket. We have to sort that out. But yeah, making it so it's just built in, I think, is really smart.
Awesome. Yes, Christine.
I'm thinking in terms of gardening, because that's my thing, but like I've been doing a lot of research on permaculture, and I started these lasagna gardens, because I never realized that just tilling, not doing a raised bed, tilling, digging up your yard just releases so much carbon into the air. So I'm thinking between the Penn Community Garden, Cornell Cooperative Extension, and all the private citizens who have gardens. Peter, I know, has a garden in his backyard, Peter and Joanna. You know what I mean? Like that would be another category, that we could kind of focus on.
Penn Green Gardens.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
At least a contest participant,
Yeah.
We love the competition.
Just digging up your ground can do that. Gosh. Yes, Val.
Now, is it my understanding that we would be working through a program that's already set up in Ithaca, or would we have to start our own program?
No, you can use our program. It's online on the website. You just plug it in. Our office is in Ithaca. That's all. But you don't have to start anything yourself besides starting the carbon race team.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I love that your organization shift is going from sustainable Tompkins towards that sustainable Finger Lakes idea. And I think that'll help clarify to folks that this is a real regional initiative. And I mean, I saw the counties and the little map of where your projects have been, and to me that even extends. It's more like central New York. It's like it doesn't seem like there are all that many hard and fast boundaries. So that's really cool too. And once that branding gets out there, I think people will be like, oh, okay, yeah, sustainable Finger Lakes, I'm a part of that. And get
right.
This.
It's not just Tompkins.
Do you have any brochures or anything that you could give us and we could distribute them in the library?
Absolutely. I'll have to get those out to you.
That'd be awesome. If they're printable, I can print them, but if you got already printed ones, that's
okay.
Too, whichever works.
Yeah. I'll think about it.
Cool.
You have any poster boards too?
Poster boards.
Just like signage.
Signage. We can get that together. I'm not a great graphic designer, but I can put something together or find something that we have.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of people come in the library. If you had a poster board and some
brochures,
that would help communicate it.
Sure. Yeah, it's like we want to communicate. We want to encourage people to offset their carbon emissions, but then we also want to reach folks that are income eligible that, are thinking about getting work done on their house and could benefit from the program. So it's like that dual messaging is important.
Yeah.
Well, so the library, as many libraries do, has that does it still have the display section as you walk into the main door? It always did for a sort of.
We have like the rack of brochures and things, you mean?
No, I was thinking of like a display shelf or something.
Yeah, we've got a book display, but we've also got a community group like table where
That's what,
that stuff can be set up. That like right now, I think it's the Living Well is there, but like that might be a good place to set up all the brochures and extra information and really push that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Great idea.
Very cool. Let me see if I had any more questions in my notes, but I think you covered most of them. And I just wanted to like shout out gamification again, because that's one of my things. So like, yay for those races. But yeah, I mean,
we actually on our new site, I think it's, we're still sorting out the code on it, but we sorted the carbon races now by county.
Mhm.
So if, the library starts a team and then the garden or, CCE or whatever group, in Penn wants to start a team, then you'll be able to see, how many emissions you've offset and actually be able to compete. So, I mean, you can still see where you are compared to other teams across the Finger Lakes, but you can, I don't know, the competition will really heighten. Seeing going toe to toe.
The library will crush all of its competitors.
Yes.
Well, that's really, I would love to see those start to pop up. And I think that with all of us here as sort of ambassadors to this idea in all of our circles, I think it could really start to happen for sure.
Yep. And I think it's important to note that it's really not that expensive. I mean, like I could drive to Ithaca and back from here and it would cost me maybe a few dollars. If I fly across the country and back, that would be 25, but at least, or like a month of energy use would be a few dollars, something like that. So it's not, we try and make it affordable so that people can participate in it. And it's not just like an elite thing that you can do.
That's so important. And it's also really neat because now that I know that like the $25 equals a ton of carbon, was that right?
Yeah.
You can kind of tell, gosh, I must produce 4 tons of carbon in a month or whatever it might be. So you kind of start to get a feel for what your regular activities cost to the world, and then you're offsetting them and you're just kind of aware. So maybe you stop doing some of those things, change the way you do some things. So that's a really cool. And maybe I don't know if you intended it that way, but I could see the potential for how that could change people's thinking too. Yeah,
I needed to check and see if we had. I suggested that we added shipping packages because during the pandemic, I mean, I was addicted to shopping online. And so I would get so many packages delivered to my house. And I was like, those big trucks driving around, I'm like, how much did that really, did that cost? So
I would love to participate in that. If that became an addition someday, because we get a lot of packages. My partner is addicted to eBay too. So
yeah, me too.
I've often wondered about the breakdown, particularly living in a rural area where if you did want to shop, you'd have to drive. I mean, you just do. And there are, I actually am one of the individuals who I hate shopping. So I'm more, it's better for me to order online. But I thought, well, what is the trade-off? I mean, if I'm driving one person in my car, driving, once a week to a neighboring community, how does that jibe with or compare to a UPS guy? I mean, I'd love it if their trucks went electric or gas or something. But, I don't know what the calculus is there. I don't know if you've done that.
I don't know. I mean, I would think that getting things delivered would be more sustainable because they have like piles of packages in the truck.
Right.
So that's what I would think. And especially if you're ordering, they have like, groceries you can order online in bulk and things like that. Versus like if you're having.
A book that influenced me a lot was one that I read probably 15 years ago now called Green Metropolis. And it
Mm,
argued, the author argued that New York City, like downtown New York, Manhattan, was actually the greenest place. Tightly, high density urban areas
Yeah.
where people walk a lot or use public transit are actually the greenest places to live. And he compared driving to a farmer's market and the trucks all coming in from rural areas versus a jet landing in with produce from, all over the world. And it's not as easy a picture as you think, it's
Yeah.
not as clear as you think.
no, that is a really good point. And it's hard for me as someone who's very passionate about climate justice and sustainability, and then being like, well, if I want to live in the most sustainable place, it would be in the middle of the city. 'Cause it's like, I want to live out in the forest.
In an
Yes.
apartment, right? With shared
Right.
walls, shared heating, and all of that. So yeah.
Right. I just found an article from NPR that says, from Amazon to FedEx, the delivery truck is going electric.
Oh,
Yay.
cool.
I'll put that in the chat.
Nice.
Something to listen to. It looks like there's like a podcast and then a little article.
Great.
But that's good. That's good
Yeah.
news.
A little hopeful.
Yeah. As things go more and more electric. That's
Yeah.
great. Power it with a heat pump.
That's right. The dream. All right.
Exactly.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments anybody has?
Well, I just want to throw this out there. Thinking about delivery trucks, and then I was going electric. I'm thinking about garbage trucks and the competing companies, driving around in Penn every day of the week, it seems, picking up garbage. The race to the bottom is obvious with the, cheaper pickup means poorer truck maintenance. I'm thinking, wow, I wonder if you could get a garbage company to get on board offsetting their carbon footprint, because that's got to be huge.
Oh yeah.
The stopping, the starting, the idling, oh my God.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Anybody know anybody from Casella or the rest of the companies? We can reach out.
Well, it would be a very good edge for them, right?
Yeah. I don't understand why more businesses in general aren't like really committing to this kind of thing and saying like, look what we do. Don't you like love us for this? And people would, I think, but I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Need a little incentive.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that have partnered with us are so excited too, and definitely promote that as, they're like, we're sustainable and this is how. And there's a lot of collaboration and celebration, whether it's on social media or our websites, newsletters. Something really cool is that Firelight Camps, for example, they do like glamping, camping in Ithaca, and they actually offer offsetting to their guests and to their clients. So it's like not just them taking the responsibility and paying out of their budget, but they also offer it to their guests and say, hey, like every time you come here, you can offset those emissions, and remind their guests to do that. So I think it's cool when they are able to offer it to their clientele as well. So it's kind of a collaborative experience.
Interesting. I almost wonder if I don't know, my brain goes before my intellect catches up with it, but could the library offer some kind of do you want to offset the cost of that book being delivered to us, make an earmarked donation right at the point of loan, $5, and it goes in our pot for offsetting the delivery costs and stuff. That would
be great. That would be awesome.
But something I could look at.
Even though, libraries themselves are so sustainable, because it's like you're not buying a new book. I always feel so good when I rent from the library.
Well, we appreciate providing that experience.
Yes.
Yeah, it's aside from your job, I think it's the best job, but I think it might be
mine's first.
Yeah, all right. Anybody else? This has been a good conversation. All right.
Sarah
Well,
better be taking lots of notes here.
Yeah.
she'll be your new point. Oh yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
She'll be a good point person for thickening and establishing the relationships across the Finger Lakes. So
Awesome. Chris, did I see you raising a
And I
hand?
just wanted to ask, so the next step for us is probably to go on the website and familiarize ourselves so that we can talk about it to our peeps.
Sounds like a good way to continue.
Yeah.
I mean,
Put questions together for the next meeting, or
yeah, my vision for this program, which hadn't really taken off last year as much, but I feel good about where we're starting from right now, was to have these kinds of conversations continue from session to session and to come up with something concrete that we can work on together, get something going, so it's not necessary. And, people can come and just watch the presentation, that's fine. But if folks get fired up to do something more and want to continue collaborating on this, this would be a great nucleus for that. So yeah, I can keep everybody sort of on a list. And if you ever say like, nope, I'm out, that's fine. That's okay too. But we can try to make something really concrete come from this if everybody thinks this is a exciting way to go, which I do.
I do.
I do too, and I'm really kind of stuck on this idea of the garbage trucks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how that would be approached so that it would be successful. I think it is an important part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we do have community compost. Peter's just said composting is numero uno to get garbage under control, but it's not going to stop the trucks from going through. And what my concern is air quality and carbon footprint, and at that level. I think that would be something I'd like to see some progress made in an area where I'd like to see progress made.
I wonder if they have a contact person. They must have some sort of, PR, marketing person.
Yeah, I think we can probably do some digging and find some. Some are
someone
more
to talk to.
local than others, if I'm correct about that. Like Casella's a pretty big operation, but some others are maybe more, rooted somewhere nearby. We can look into what's.
Yeah, they also have a phone number. Just maybe connect us with the right person.
I know they call me when they're not going to make it to my pickup. So
you can be like, well, I have something to talk to you about.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's a great, something great to think about, and maybe one prong of a multi-pronged thing.
One of the garbage issues is to minimize the amount of garbage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like we're minimizing the amount of use of, minimizing the use of CO2. And we got to figure out, that's not easy. I mean, you go to the store and buy stuff, you get back packages and stuff like that, and sometimes you're not sure where to put them.
Yeah.
In the garbage.
Yeah. It is a constant struggle for sure. And other things that I've sort of thought about for what role the library can play in such things is like, I mean, we already do the book lending and all, the DVDs and all the other things as, a signal that the borrowing economy actually works if people are willing to like think of things as borrowable commodities instead of something like, oh, my blender broke, I have to go buy myself a new blender that I'll use twice a year and it'll sit on the shelf, and meanwhile all the styrofoam packaging that came out of it and all this stuff, as opposed to the library has a blender, here you go, bring it back in a week. And some libraries do things like that, but it's all a matter of like figuring out, well, will it play in some ways? So other things we can talk about perhaps.
Yeah, I know in Ithaca we have like a buy nothing group on Facebook, and we have like a free gift economy and things like that, and people will post that they're just looking to borrow something, or that if someone requests something, people are like, yo, you can borrow mine, but I'll just need it back. And so it's like I think it's starting to become more mainstream, even from strangers.
Yeah.
And Geneva has a swap day where you can meet, and if you've got stuff you don't use anymore, and meet on a community level and see if there's anything anybody else has that you need.
That's so cool.
That is
Cool.
very cool.
Yeah, that could help a little bit with the, some of the garbage and waste problems. And, it's about changing people's thought processes over time. And, we might
Yeah.
not see it in a measurable way from day to day, but check back in 10 years and things might be very, very different.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you so very, very much. This has been a fantastic presentation and conversation. I am energized, and I
Great.
think other
Thank
folks
you.
are too, I hope.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. We'll definitely be in touch. That's for sure.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, and thanks everybody. We'll talk again real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.